Hello everyone. I'm going to start another topic today, that is the concept of social welfare. And in this, I would be discussing about welfare of women, child, youth, as well as the minorities. If you look into the social welfare concept, welfare is sometimes considered to be an ambiguous term, which often or commonly refers to the well-being. And while if we say well-being of people, and well-being is a multifaceted concept, it might refers to the needs, it might refers to interest and wants of the people, needs the thing that people must have, interest things which are good for the people, and wants the things which people choose for themselves. So this, despite the ambiguity attached to this concept, some generalizations are possible. For example, if we talk about poverty, it can be identified as a lack of well-being. So though welfare is often associated with their needs and interests, but it goes beyond what people need and what people want. And to achieve the well-being, people must have choices, they must have options and the scope to choose personal goals and ambitions. So welfare originated to help those individuals who could not purchase their needs in the market according to the commercial standards or exchange rate. It is this reaction to the commercial base. So the term social welfare thus historically signifies the services provided outside the market forces for promotion of integration. If you look into social welfare as a system, it provides assistance to individuals and families in need. It encompasses a wide range of programs designed to ensure that all members of the society can meet their basic needs for food, shelter, housing, clothing, education, and healthcare. And the concept of social welfare is deeply rooted in the idea of social justice, which seeks to reduce inequality and provide support for the vulnerable and marginalized. Social welfare is also considered an institutions comprising policies and laws that are operationalized by organizing activities of voluntary, maybe both public as well as the government, private sector agencies, by which a defined minimum of social services, money and other consumption rights are distributed to the individual families and groups by criteria other than those of the marketplace or those prevailing in the family system. So for the purpose of preventing, alleviating or contributing to the solution of recognized social problems, so as to improve the well-being of the individual groups and communities directly. The idea of welfare refers to the well-being and what is good for people. So, social welfare is the provision of a minimal level of well-being which has to be provided to the people, and social support for all citizens irrespective of which caste, creed. So, it can be taken or it can be referred to the provision of social services principally about healthcare, education, housing, social security measures, social safety, economic opportunities or employment generation, so on. So generally, welfare refers to wide range of activities and services which is being provided by the government, voluntary institutions, non-profit organizations, provide help and assistance to the needy people who are unable to take care of themselves, where the role of the state becomes much more wider and the role of the market is narrowed down, because here the people welfare is particularly meant for those who are vulnerable, who are marginalized, who cannot afford the market forces to take care of them. And then thirdly, in order to eliminate or reduce the incidences of social problems, there are certain definitions of social welfare. It can be said that, Wayne Vasse notes that social welfare includes two main characteristics. Firstly, the utilization of welfare measures to support or strengthen the family as a basic social institution through which needs are met, and the intent to strengthen the individual's capacity to cope with his life situation. According to a document prepared by the United Nations on social welfare planning in the context of national development plans, social welfare is considered as a body of organized activities which are basically meant to enable individuals, groups, and communities to improve their own situations, adjust to changing conditions, and participate in the task of development. So, in a way, we can say that social welfare is the condition of or well-being of society. It can be considered as a state or condition of human well-being that exists when social problems are managed, when human needs are met, and when social opportunities are maximized. When all these are met, when all these three are met, maybe the family, community, the society, they enjoys a satisfactory level of welfare measures. So it can be, in fact, welfare can be traced back, which means, or rather, it talks about happiness. Welfare is also related in the old age customs and traditions and related to both happiness as well as prosperity. So, however, in the 20th century, welfare came to be associated with the assessment of and the provision of for needs in the welfare state. According to Fred Lander, social welfare consists of the organized services and institutions which has been designed to aid individuals and groups to attain satisfying standards of living and of life and death, and personal and social relationships which permit them to develop their full capacities and to promote their well-being in harmony with the needs of the families and the communities. The Encyclopedia of Social Work adds that social welfare is for the purpose of ensuring basic standards of physical and mental well-being and providing universal access to mainstream of society. So others add that it provides for those who can't cope up by themselves, create social change and modification of social institutions, strengthening society, while it helps individuals and provides services outside the market economy for those unable to succeed it. Ronald C. Federico has defined social welfare as a society's governmental and non-governmental efforts to help its members functions more effectively as individuals and as participants in organized social structure. However, so the social welfare, if you look into it's more of an organized provision of resources and services for the society to deal with various social problems. All social interventions that are intended to enhance or maintain the social functioning of human beings may be defined as social welfare, which is being given by Ralph Dolgoff. Then Richard Titmuss has said that all collective interventions to meet certain needs of the individuals and to serve the wider interest of society is called social welfare. Then, in a narrow sense, sometimes social welfare is also considered, or those non-profit functions of the society, public or voluntary, that are clearly aimed at alleviating distress and poverty or ameliorating the conditions of casualties of society. Then social welfare includes all programs whose explicit purpose is to protect adults and children from the degradation and insecurity of ignorance, illness, disability, unemployment, and poverty. And this definition was given by Amy Gutman. Then NASW had also, that is National Association of Social Workers, had also defined social welfare as it generally denotes a full range of organized activities of voluntary and governmental organizations that seek to prevent, alleviate, or contribute to the solution of recognized social problems or to improve the well-being of the individuals, groups, and communities. And lastly, social welfare is considered as a system of laws, programs, benefits, and services which strengthen or assure provision for meeting social needs recognized as basic for the welfare of the population and for functioning of this social order, which has been given by Elizabeth. So the goal of social welfare is to fulfill the social, financial, health, and recreational requirement of a particular of individuals or groups in a society. The social welfare, it seeks to enhance the well-being of the people as well as the social functioning of all age groups, both whether they are privileged or underprivileged. So when other institutions in any society such as the market economy and the family fails to provide or fails to meet the aims and goals of the providing basic needs to the individuals or groups, social services are needed and demanded. There are certain principles of welfare and social welfare, as with the above various definitions, it can be now defined as a complex of institutions, services, programs, and activities which is intended to meet the needs of the people in a manner that is conducive for the development and growth and better functioning of people in as individuals, members, families, groups, communities, and larger society. So there are general principles that guides the practice of social welfare, and these principles are derived from the principles of human rights and the nature of human beings. So the first is the inherent dignity of and worth of the individual person. It becomes very important that it has to be understood that every individual has his own inherent degree and worth. So when welfare measures are provided, his dignity and in worth has to be intact. It should not be in any manner demeaning the individual's psyche or his confidence or his thought process. Then the possession by each individual person of potentialities and resources for managing his or her own life, that is to mean that every individual person has a potential to manage his own affairs. Even a newly born child has the potential capacity to manage his life, though vulnerable at that moment of birth. So the child also learns to survive, the child also learns to manage and to carve his own niche. In the same way, every individual has a capacity, that inherent capacity, intellect and potential to work effectively in the society. Then the great potential capacity for growth within all human beings. Human beings have the potential for growth. For people should be assisted in achieving this potential of growing. This means that there should be a support system either from the family, the market, or the welfare state, that is the nation, the government, or the institutions, voluntary institutions and organizations should provide full support to the person in distress or in need. The right of the individual person to basic necessities. Every individual is entitled not only to the need but also has the right to basic necessities of food, clothing and shelter. So in modern times, we can say that medical care or health care is also considered as a basic need and right for the well-being of an individual. Then the importance of freedom to express one's own individuality. People have the right to express their own feelings and opinions and present their viewpoints. They also have the right to behave as they want to, as long as they do not disturb the others, they do not break the or try to destroy the equilibrium in the society, thus becoming or resorting to antisocial activities. Then the need for the individual person to struggle and to strive to improve one's own life and environment. Every individual person has to struggle and strive to improve life. No one is to struggle for him. One has to develop on oneself mentally, physically and emotionally. Simple delivery of wealth from others it will not last for long. So it becomes imperative for the individual to look after his own basic needs, to strive, to struggle to improve his own conditions and to take control of his life. The right of the individual person for helping or assistance in times of need and crisis. So one could be the richest individual, but there may be times when one gets into crisis. So as a result, he is forced to seek help from or any assistance from outside source. The importance of self-help and self-reliance is essential basis for any social welfare program. Self-help begins and self-reliance follows. Then the importance of social organizations for which the individual feels respectable and which is responsive to individual needs. The social organization should be fulfilling the individual needs of its members and they should feel responsible to the organizations. That is, there should be a sense of ownership of the institution among the members. And then the right and responsibility of the individual members to participate in the affairs of the social or community to which he or she belongs. So right and responsibility are the two important sides of a coin and they are inseparable. Then there is significance of social welfare. There are certain significance why welfare is required and what is the need. First of all, social welfare aims at reducing poverty. It provides financial assistance and services to those who are in need, helping to alleviate poverty and improve living conditions, living standards of the population. It promotes social justice by ensuring that basic needs are met. Social welfare promotes equality and fairness within society, enabling all individuals to have equal opportunities. And then lastly, support for vulnerable groups. Support for vulnerable groups. Specific programs target vulnerable populations, including children, elderly, disabled individual and marginalized communities, providing them with necessary support and protection. Economic stability, social welfare can stabilize the economy by supporting consumption. When people have access to basic needs, they are more likely to participate in the economy, which can stimulate economic growth. Then health and well-being, access to healthcare, nutritious food, safe housing through welfare programs lead to better health outcomes and overall well-being for individuals and communities. Then there is the concept of social cohesion. Welfare programs help to reduce social tensions and inequalities, foster a sense of solidarity and cohesion within the society. Human capital development, by investing in education and health, social welfare enhances human capital, leading to a more skilled and productive workforce. And then crisis management, in times of economic downturns or natural disasters, social welfare programs provide a safety net that can help individuals and families recover more quickly. Then there are certain approaches to social welfare. Approach implies a structured institutional response or a framework for policy. Each developed and developing country has its own approach and system of social welfare policies and programs. So this welfare system reflects by and large the values and beliefs about how people welfare can be best advanced. So there are four approaches: family centric approach, a residual perspective approach, mixed economy approach, and the institutional approach. Now, if you look into the family centric approach, this is perhaps the oldest. If you talk about the family centric approach, this is perhaps the oldest approach in which the family plays a very active role in providing social welfare provisions. Strong familial bonds, they tend to be an important source of social support or social capital. For example, taking care of the children or the aged and disabled, family as a whole function together and plays a very critical role. They are in many countries in Asia, the joint family system continues to be the main support for not only for providing a sense of security and safety, but it also provides economic security, especially to the unemployed adults within the family structure or children and other older family members. And therefore, many policymakers perceive family as a significant point for intervention. So this approach is based on conventional wisdom as well as sound sociological theory. Strong family bonds are considered as a source of sustainable social support. Public policy analysis therefore perceives the family to be a point of intervention by the state, both for meeting the welfare needs and for curbing social ills. In fact, the family approach, although has certain limitations, one of them is that it is almost coming near to an extinction because there is a breakdown of joint family system. There is no more extended family now. It is more of a nuclear family. Particularly in the urban areas, you have more of a nuclear family. Secondly, it does not look at the role of the gender in the family. And thirdly, there are certain financial and spatial issues which constrains universalistic reliance on the family approach. Then we have the residual approach. The residual approach conceives of welfare provision by the government as the last resort. It is based on the idea that first people can resolve the problems on their own by themselves. The needy can find support through the family, the market, insurance in particular, or non-governmental institutions and organizations. Government would step only when there is a dire need or when the needy are unable to meet their needs or resolve the issues and problems. So in this context, the public provision is made for the residue of the poor, like sick, unemployment, older people. So the residual approach is followed in few countries only. It suffers from many limitations, like chief among them is the means or the eligibility test fulfilling the residency requirement of a given state or territory in a federal system. So the residual approach does not also touch issues like the housing facilities, and this benefits only the extreme needy or those who are eligible on a certain criteria or parameter. Then there is a mixed economy approach. In mixed economy approach, there are certain countries which follow the mixed economy approach, like England and Germany Germany, where there are some where they have adopted in social welfare. For example, the German social insurance system has provided a very successful forum for cooperation between government, social administrators, bank, insurance firms and individual entrepreneurs. In such a system, insurance benefits linked to individual earnings cover the bulk of material needs. So in this model, public and private sectors, they come together in managing welfare policies in a more efficient manner than in a bureaucracy centric option. However, a major limitation of this approach again is that public private partnerships do not operate in many countries and is in the best possible manner. Then there is this institutional approach. It is a normative approach, and it is based on the belief that social welfare can be best promoted through collective action and pooling of resources. Welfare is provided according to this approach for the population as a whole, in the same way as public services like roads or schools might be, and it may be described as a fully saturated model. For example, instead of restricting public health coverage to specific social groups belonging to the weaker sections, the coverage of the program is made universal in this model. So these were the certain approaches of social welfare. Now, India is a nation earmarked by diverse socioeconomic, the welfare part of it. So India is a nation marked by diverse socioeconomic challenges, and it has placed a significant emphasis on social welfare policies to promote inclusive development and uplift marginalized sections of society. In fact, social welfare policies in India aims to address issues like poverty, illiteracy, unemployment, health disparities, and social inequalities. And social welfare policies, they are applied to socially underprivileged groups, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, denotified communities, orphans, widows, unmarried women, unmarried mothers, women in moral danger, women in particular, aged and infirm, women and children, socially maladjusted, beggars, prostitutes, delinquent, physically and mentally disabled, diseased, mentally retarded, ill or economically backward among upper caste, destitutes and unemployed. There are certain welfare provisions and programs which are necessary, which has been tailor-made for specific target groups to ameliorate their distress and to provide them ample opportunities, choices and freedom to live the life fullest and to improve their living standards and maintain their dignity and inherent worth. Although they had been in the previous lectures, I had discussed about various policies also related to women, related to education policies, health policy, environmental, housing, old age policies are also there. And in the welfare part also there are certain welfare measures for women, for child, for youth, for minorities, for the aged and children. But here in this one, in this lecture, I am going to deal with the 4 welfare measures: welfare of women, welfare of children, welfare of youth, as well as welfare of minorities. Now, first I will talk about the welfare measures for women. The Constitution of India has given special attention to the needs and the rights of the women, which enables them to exercise their rights, have equal footing with men, and participate in the national development. They can equally contribute in the nation's growth and development. It aims at creating an entirely new social order where all the citizens are given equal opportunities for growth and development, and that no discrimination should take place on the basis of their caste, creed, religion. In the process of poverty eradication and reducing gender discrimination, the government has always implemented various schemes and provisions providing ways and means towards women development and empowerment. In fact, if I give an example, self-help groups was a movement, one such program which has proved successfully in empowering and developing the women's role in economic, in social, political aspect. In fact, it has somehow the concept and the idea of SHG has somehow empowered women in all spheres. There had been numerous programs and schemes which have the prominent part to play in the process of women empowerment and development, and which are yet still being successfully implemented. In fact, in this regard, the schemes and programs intended for women development had been will be discussed in the further as I proceed with my lectures. It was found that after gaining independence, the government had particularly, or rather had decided to pave a path to not only to bring about social change based on three areas, that is economy, which is based on three areas of constitutional legal reforms, planned development based on mixed economy, and state support to social welfare activities. And all these three policies are expected to create a more democratic, just and prosperous society. And all these have their impact on the status of women too. So the empowerment and welfare of women, they have been central to India's development agenda, reflecting the nation's commitment to gender equality as well as social justice. So women welfare policies in India were designed to address gender disparities, improve the socio-economic conditions, enhance women's access to opportunities and resources. And these initiatives cover a wide spectrum from education and health to financial inclusion and legal rights. In fact, the Ministry of Women and Child Development, which is a nodal agency for all the matters pertaining to women welfare and empowerment of women, has evolved during the course of since inception until date, has evolved schemes and programs for the benefit. And these schemes and programs are spread across a broader spectrum, such as women's need for shelter, security, safety, legal aid, justice, social justice, information, maternal health, food, nutrition, and so on, as well as the need for economic sustenance through skill development, education, and access to credit and marketing. The ministry also supports autonomous body like the National Commission, Central Welfare, Social Welfare Board, and Rashtra Mahila Kosh, which work for the welfare and development of women. These are the certain constitutional rights to the women, and the rights and safeguards enshrined in the Constitution for women in India are as follows. The state shall not discriminate against any citizen of India on the ground of sex, Article 15(1). The state is empowered to make any special provision for women. In other words, this provision enables the state to make affirmative discrimination, in favor of women, Article 15. Then no citizen shall be discriminated against or be ineligible for any employment or office under the state on the ground of sex. Then traffic in human beings and forced labor are prohibited, Article 23(1). Then the state to secure for men and women equally the right to an adequate means of livelihood, Article 39(a). Then the state to secure equal pay for equal work for both Indian men and women, Article 39. The state is also required to ensure that the health and strength of women workers are not abused and that they are forced by economic necessity to enter vocations unsuited to their strength, Article 39(e). Then the state shall make provisions for securing just and human conditions of work and maternity relief, Article 42. Then it shall be the duty of every citizen of India to renounce practices derogatory to the dignity of women, Article 51(e). Then 1/3 of total number of the seats are to be filled by direct election in every panchayat shall be reserved for women, Article 243. And then 1/3 of total number of the offices of the chairperson in the panchayat, even in the municipality, shall be reserved for women, as well as in the municipality, both Article 243 and 243(d)(4), T3. Then the offices of chairperson in the municipality shall be reserved for women in such a manner as the state legislatures may provide. If you look into the legal rights of women, there various legislations have been initiated to protect and safeguard the rights of the women, like Protection of Women from Domestic Violence 2005. It's a comprehensive legislation to protect women in India from all forms of domestic violence. It covers women who have been or who are in a relationship with the abuser and are subjected to violence of any kind, physical, sexual, mental, verbal or emotional. Then Immoral Traffic Prevention Act 1956 is the premier legislation for preventing of trafficking for commercial sexual exploitation. In other words, it prevents trafficking in women and girls for the purpose of prostitution as an organized means of living. Then Indecent Representation of Women Prohibition Act 1986 prohibits indecent representation of women through advertisements or in publication, writing, paintings, figures or any other manner. Then Commission of Sati Prevention Act 1987 1987 provides for the more effective prevention of the commission of sati and its glorification on women. And Dowry Prohibition Act of 1961 prohibits the giving or taking dowry or at or before or any time after the marriage from women. Then Maternity Benefit Act of 1961 regulates the employment of women in certain establishments for a certain period before and after childbirth and provides for maternity benefit and certain other benefits. Then the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act of 1971, it provides for the termination of certain pregnancies by registered medical practitioners on humanitarian medical grounds. Then Preconception and Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Prohibition of Sex Selection Act 1994 prohibits sex selection before or after conception and prevents the misuse of prenatal diagnostic techniques for sex determination leading to female feticide. Equal Remuneration Act of 1976, which provides payment of equal remuneration to both men and women workers for same work or work of similar nature. It also prevents discrimination on the ground of sex against women in recruitment and service conditions. Then Dissolution of Muslim Marriage Act 1939 grants a Muslim wife right to seek the dissolution of her marriage. Then Muslim Women Protection of Rights of Divorce 1986 protects the rights of Muslim women who have been divorced by or have obtained divorce from their husbands. Then Family Courts Act 1984 provides for the establishment of family courts for speedy settlement of family disputes. Then Indian Penal Code 1860 maintains it contains provisions to protect Indian women from dowry death, rape, kidnapping, cruelty and other offences. Code of Criminal Procedure 1973 has certain safeguards for women like obligation of a person to maintain his wife, arrest of a woman by female police and so on. Then Indian Christian Marriage Act 1872 contains provisions relating to marriage and divorce among the Christian community. Legal Services Authority Act 1987 provides for the free legal services to Indian women. And Hindu Marriage Act of 1955 introduced monogamy and allowed divorce on certain specified grounds. It provides equal rights to Indian men and women in respect of marriage and divorces. Then Hindu Succession Act of 1956 recognizes the right of women to inherit parental property equally with men. And Minimum Wages Act of 1948 does not allow discrimination between men and women workers on different minimum wages for them. Then Mines Act of 1952 and Factories Act of 1948 prohibits the employment of women between 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. in mines and factories and provides for their safety and welfare. Then there are other following legislations which contain certain rights and safeguards like Employee State Insurance Act, Plantation Labour Act, Bonded Labour System, Legal Protection, Indian Succession, Indian Divorce Act, Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act, Parsi Marriage and Divorce, Special Marriage Act and so on. Then there is also a National Commission for Women which was initiated, National Commission for Women Act 1990 provided for the establishment of the National Commission for Women to study and monitor all matters relating to the constitutional legal rights and safeguards of women. And then Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013 provides protection to women from sexual harassment at all workplaces, both in public and private sector, whether organized or unorganized.